You know she's getting filled by some black stud. You know there's some black fucking bull that's just filling her with cock meat, giving her the real fuck she deserves. Some big black bull just filling her with cock meat.
All right, folks, how we all doing? How are we all doing tonight? Yes, chat, spelling out the N word. That's very lovely. Thank you for that. Excellent contribution. Ah, so, just felt like BSing a bit. Bernie dropped out today. That's some interesting news. So, Trump is running unopposed, I guess now. So, congratulations on your reelection, Mr. President. I mean, since we're all trapped in the fucking house, anyways, it's gonna be nice to watch. At least we'll have something to watch when Trump has a quote unquote debate with an Alzheimer's patient. Oh, I mean, I don't think Bernie was electable over Trump, but compared to Biden, are you out of your mind? Like everybody's like, no, Biden will beat Trump. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? No, no, he will not. Uh, a few things I wanted to talk about tonight. First, I got this thing in the mail because we're still allowed to get mail for now. Um, I've mentioned before on here my favorite preacher, Steve Brown. This is a guy played a big role in me coming to Christ, and he was on the local radio around here, WDAC. I started listening to him actually I was still in high school. Listening to him on the drive home, and I wasn't even a Christian at the time. I was actually kind of hostile to Christianity, but I turned on the Christian station a lot of times, more just for the politics of it. I was a big politics junkie, and I'd sit in my car and yell at the radio, that kind of thing. Um, but I ended up listening to Steve Brown, and what really interested me about it was um, this is somebody that does not shy away from the grace of Christianity, the actual nature of the gospel. Um, because you'd hear it from the other ends of evangelical culture where it's like, oh, it's grace, it's grace, it's grace, all this other stuff. It's not about what you earn. And then you look at every other aspect of their subculture, and it's just not. It's just steeped in legalism. Now, something like Catholicism or even Orthodoxy, I would argue that the legalism is it's a feature, not a bug, but it's definitely there. Um, and I don't know. I say evangelical is like a catch-all, just conservative Protestants, whatever you want to call it. They used to call it the religious right back in the day. You know what I'm talking about. Uh, but again, Brown was somebody that did not shy away from the gospel. And so I get this thing in the mail because I've donated some money to Key Life, so I'm always on their mailing list. They're any kind of nonprofit, they're always hard up for cash. And I get a thing that's saying that, because it's in my local area, Steve Brown is leaving WDAC, but you can still hear the daily Bible teaching plus archives at keylife.org on SiriusXM channel 131, which I actually have Sirius, so that's primarily where I listen to him there. But I don't know, just kind of Steve Brown's getting very old, and it kind of occurred to me recently that he has a guest host his show a lot more than he used to. He's slowing down, probably not going to be with us all that much longer. Kind of makes me sad. I mean, a lot of things make me sad right now. We're killing our country right now. We're killing our economy over a flu with a 1% death rate. But this is something that really I don't know. You know when the you know what? I got a guest today. I'm gonna bring in a guest. I wanted to just ramble for a little bit there at first, but yeah, it kind of makes me sad. I don't think Key Life gets the recognition it deserves. I don't think Steve Brown gets the recognition he deserves. When I remember when I was heavily involved in a church. You know, he was doing a speaking engagement in some church in Philly, not far from me. It was a suburb of Philly, but it's like an hour and a half. I couldn't find anybody at my church even knew who the hell he was to go. You know, meanwhile, when James McDonald came by this area around that time, you know, it was tickets months in advance kind of situation. The thing with James McDonald, something that occurred to me, I for a while as I was looking back on that, I said, you know, why did people fall for him? Why didn't they see? Because I saw him as a legalistic sociopath years and years ago. I didn't realize just how bad he was, just what a monster he was, but I basically knew what he was. I thought, why didn't anybody else see it? And the reality is they did. And they liked that. He was an authoritarian bully for years and years and years, and they all liked that. There are a lot of people who are attracted to their faith for the very things that once held me back from it. You know, when I was a snot-nosed teenager who thought he knew everything about the world, you know, I was like, religion's just a way for them to control you, man. It's just some stuff they made up to control you. And I really think with a lot of these trad types, with a lot of these legalistic types, they're sort of like, you know, yeah, that's a good thing. Anyways, I got Pastor Tom waiting. I'm going to bring him on. We're going to do this on Skype because I don't have anything on this set up or fixed yet. So let me make sure the audio things are all right. All right, so up and hang on. Of course, I forget this every time because I don't use Skype enough. Every single time I shut down Skype and restart it. Or I know it's every time I unplug the mic, which is frequent. When I plug it back in, Skype has decided that my speakers should also be my microphone. Okay. Now let's try it. I don't know why I forget that, but... Alright. Hey, Pastor Tom, how's it going? You enjoying your lockdown?
I am. I'm having a good time, and so is my baby.
Oh, good to hear.
So she's here with me right now. So if you hear her cry, I might have to mute my mic. But she's smiling right now, so she's fine.
Well, that's good to hear. Congratulations. Let's bring your audio up a little bit. Okay.
How's your lockdown going?
It's fine, I guess. I mean, I'm not working tonight. I wasn't feeling well earlier, so I took a sick day. Not the Kung flu. I just had a bit of a stomach bug. But I am actually working, which is nice because get out of the house.
Boxes are essential, huh?
They are essential. They are very, very essential. I don't know. You know, I started off with this a couple months ago. I was of the mindset that they weren't taking this seriously enough, and I don't think they were. But what they're doing now, this is not good either. I mean, you know, the time to actually stop this was back in what, December, January. You close the border, you shut off, you know, you massively, sanitize and screen stuff coming in and out. Nobody coming in and out kind of thing. That if we'd have done that back in January, there would have been an economic hit, sure. But, you know, I'd have been able to get my comic books today. You know, I'd be able to go to a restaurant right now if I wanted to. You know, life would be pretty normal.
Yeah, you know, our Argent did a video about it where he was talking about how, you know, basically America needed to do one thing or the other. And I don't know how possible that would have been, but I mean, I agree with what he was saying essentially that, you know, you're right, either doing, you know, this sort of half measure that we've kind of taken here. And, you know, some of these things with the lockdown, you know, don't even make any sense, you know, like what's essential, what's not essential. You know, I don't know, and I mean it's obvious it's upset a lot more people I think than people sort of feel good about it.
Yeah, I'm not
I
happy
mean,
about it. I mean, I get some people that are like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do this, and some of them, I mean, I'm not gonna name names, but one guy on the Discord I was chatting with last night, was like, I don't know why people are complaining about freedom. I've never been so free. Free to do what? Work a 50-hour week, and it's basically somebody that wants to sit at home and have their tendies and their neat bucks. There's a
well, I
lot of
mean,
people like that that are just thrilled with that because they already were shut-ins. They're just now getting paid for it.
you're not allowed to gather in groups of 50 or more. So if you wanted to go to a concert, you can. Of course, a lot of churches can't meet right now, at least not in any kind of traditional sense. Not if they want to obey the law. You're not free to go drive around just wherever you want. You can get reported for that by your neighbors. You're not free to shop at any place that you want. You're not free to go to a dine-in restaurant. I mean, so people think they're free. They just don't understand what freedom is, I guess. You're not even free to really, go over to your nephew's house or your cousin's house or anything like that. That was the thing that one of the guys was talking about. The absurdity of this is like, on the one hand, it's legal for you to get on a plane, fly to New York, and pick up a lunch and fly back, but it would be illegal for you to go over to your neighbor's house even if you're both asymptomatic. That's the absurdity of the lockdown.
And the abuse of power in it. I mean, you see in like New York, this cop was gonna write this couple was sitting out on a bench next to each other. He's like, "Hey, keep your distance," and it's like, we're married, we live next to each other. We're both asymptomatic. It's like, I'm gonna write you a ticket anyways. It's this is, and like I saw one thing getting passed around Facebook where there's this note this person left on a car. Oh, you're driving around unnecessarily. I'm gonna report you. It's like, I'd rather all of us cough our lungs right out of our mouths than turn into a nation of hall monitor Karens.
Well, that's the thing. It almost has to lead to an abuse of power, though, because how else do you enforce, some of these stuff? When you get to trying to tell people what to do to this degree, you have to abuse the power at that point. Because there's no set standard. Again, if I'm in my car and I get pulled over by the police, well, I could just say, well, I'm just going to Food Lion. I'm going to, wherever, the grocery store, to pick up groceries, essential items. Well, how does he know? Well, either A, he's going to abuse his power to try to find out, or he's just going to have to not enforce it and just let me do whatever I want. He doesn't know what I'm doing. He doesn't know where I live. Or he has to, again, abuse his power to try to figure that out. And the same thing for citizens, too. That was a stupid idea when they started saying, oh, come here. I know. Come here. A silly idea. It was a silly idea when they started getting citizens, and it's going to give them a reward for it. So
I don't think any of this is helping. There's some basic things you could do, but at this point, all you're going to end, like, some of these people, one of the Emanuel brothers, that's apparently a doctor, I just saw him on Revenge of the Sis, but he was going on about, we need to keep everything in lockdown for 12 to 18 months. It's like, that'll destroy this nation.
Well, yeah,
we're
our nation
looking
can't
at
handle
a
that.
decade-long depression after that, on top of all on people getting sick anyways. Because I wouldn't be opposed to a few basic things, like, okay, maybe large gatherings like concerts, maybe you shut that down. Sporting events, okay, maybe the NBA and the NFL and all these other sports ball things, they could still play, but maybe nobody's at the stadium, or maybe only 10% of the seats get sold, that kind of thing. Even something like, okay, all public buildings, we're cutting the maximum occupancy for all public buildings in half across the board. Okay. Basic common sense. And if you want to wear your gloves and your mask and all, and your hazmat suit or whatever you got going on outside, fine, do that. But at a certain point, I'm not one of those guys who early on was like, this is just the flu, it's nothing to be concerned about, but it is kind of just a really bad flu, okay? It's just very, very contagious, and it's 10% more lethal than the flu. Well, 10% of basically nothing is still basically nothing.
Well,
Or 10 times
we're
that,
doing
not 10%.
better. Do what?
10 times I meant, not 10%. Sorry.
Well, I mean, we're already doing better than what the best case scenario of some of the models were saying. I mean, like, the best case scenario said us at this point having 4,000 deaths, and we're only at 3,000. I mean, don't get me wrong, a death is a death and it's horrible, but 3,000 is better than 4,000, and that was the best case scenario that the model had predicted. That's not anywhere close to the worst case scenario. So I mean, we're still doing, and not everybody's abiding by this like they were hoping. So I mean, again, by and large, we're still doing better. So I think, there needs to be some room for reevaluation. The other thing that I can't stand is if you so much as mention the economy, oh, you just care about money over lives. You just want to kill grandma to bring the Dow back up. It's like, no, you
Yeah, that
silly
drives me
person. I
nuts,
mean,
too.
but recognizing that, 10 million people filing for unemployment maybe isn't a good thing is not wanting to kill your grandmother just so the Dow Jones gets, a couple extra points.
Yeah, I mean, I said to somebody, I'm like, look, I'm not looking to kill grandma to make Green Line go up. But if you're asking me, would I sacrifice grandma to prevent a decade-long depression? You're not going to like my answer. I mean, because you're not weighing human death and suffering against money. You're weighing human death and suffering against human death and suffering.
Lives
A
versus lives.
depression, yeah, a depression is people starving. A depression is people killing themselves because they don't think they have a future anymore. A depression is misery
And
of
depression is people
all
not
different.
getting the kind of health care that they would need to survive because they can't afford it.
Yeah, and it's a depression on top of still having the virus around.
Right, and the lockdown, I mean, it's who knows if it's working or one hand. On the one hand, it's still spreading very rapidly, but again, on the other hand, the deaths are not nearly as high as they were expecting. So either A, our healthcare is a lot better than we expected, or B, the virus maybe isn't as deadly as they originally thought, or at least the strand that we got of it. I mean, again, it's possible there are two different strands, and Italy got the worst one, or Spain, and we just, like I said, we didn't get that, but
Well, they got hit earlier on with it, and
yeah.
I mean, viruses do mutate, and eventually viruses mutate usually into relatively harmless variants because otherwise they don't get far. Ebola kills tons of people and it never seems to spread worldwide. It always flares up in areas, usually dirt poor areas in Africa, but it doesn't tend to get very far because it burns through its host too fast. Natural selection doesn't favor a virus like that. There's a reason the cold will be with us till the end of time because all it does is it's a mild nuisance. All right, but we still go about our lives, meaning we still spread it.
Well, and same thing with the flu. And I mean, again, you can say that, and you're not saying that the corona is just the flu, but there's also the question of thinking ahead. What happens when June gets here? What happens when like, right now my state's on a 30-day lockdown, so it's supposed to end April 30th. Okay, so what happens when April 30th comes? Is the lockdown over? Is it going to keep going on? What happens when the fall comes? And on the one hand, nobody can really know the answer to this because we don't know how the virus is going to handle this. On the other hand, though, the answer cannot be more lockdown. I mean, this is okay for a stopgap measure, but this is like chemotherapy. Eventually you're going to kill the patient.
Yeah, right now the only things I'm seeing dying are local businesses.
Yeah. Small businesses, yeah, exactly. Lowe's is doing great. Walmart's doing great. Big businesses, they're awesome, but your local businesses is doing horrible.
GameStop had a certain complaint because they got forced to shut down, and it was something of a valid complaint. Why is it people are allowed to go buy video games at Target, but they're not allowed to buy video games at GameStop?
Right.
I mean, Target and Walmart and all and those handful of big corporations, Amazon in particular, are making a killing right now. Local
Exactly.
businesses have to like, oh well, we got like one guy working who will mail you stuff if you know exactly what you want, kind of like trying desperately to stay afloat. There's an arcade in my area, one of those ones where everything's free to play, but they charge you by the hour to be in there.
Yeah.
And they were planning on expanding this year. They had 2 locations in the next county over. They were going to put one in this county. Just 2 days ago, I saw they put a GoFundMe up on their Facebook page of, please throw us money so we don't disappear.
And see, I mean that's like I said, and the thing is that when that business, if it goes under, then everyone who worked there is out of a job.
Yeah.
And so that's more people on the system. And so, I mean, people are worried about, the healthcare system getting overloaded. Okay, the valid worry. What about the welfare system getting overloaded? I mean, it was already pretty heavily taxed to begin with. Add a couple of million people to it, and then it's, getting real bad. It just, and like I said, I mean, and again, people are not going to continue to just be cooped up like this. I mean, it's just they're
Yeah,
going to
that's
get
not.
fed up. Eventually,
People
people are
can't
just
say
going to
that.
say, you know what, forget it. I'm just going to take the risk and go.
People need human contact. Um, People just need it. I mean, I'm slightly more introverted than most people. I'm I'm not a huge introvert, but I mean, big social gatherings and all that can be pretty draining for me. I do like my alone time. That said, though, if I wasn't working still, I'd be starved for it. You know, I mean, that's kind of a reason. Even though I'm sort of not doing it anymore, I've been streaming a lot the past couple weeks. It's just nice to interact with the chat, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's good, and I mean that's okay. But like you said, that face-to-face interaction, actually talking with people is fine. And if they're, oh, well, why did you knock it out of your mouth if you wanted it still? Anyway, the face-to-face is important. I mean, that's again, people at the church. I mean, they're missing it. You calling and talking to them. I've talked to a lot more people a lot longer than I had before, just because they miss that contact when I call them on the phone and stuff. So it's just like I said, it's if it's necessary, and I think it's necessary in some places like New York and probably California and Louisiana. Some of these other places, I don't think it's as necessary, and I do think that it's basically some people just sort of flexing. I think some of it is some of these governors are trying to basically virtue signal, oh look, I'm doing something. I'm putting my state into lockdown so that way they can say, I took action when Corona hit and everything. And then some of this is just people abusing power and doing what they can. I mean, again, the biggest thing, of course, that a lot of people in Christian circles have been is, on the one hand, churches can't meet, but abortion clinics are still there. I mean, how is that? How is an abortion an essential service?
Uh, like I said, you can't keep going at this. People are like, oh yeah, it'll go 18 months. Like, no, it won't. At a certain point, I don't think people will be able to tolerate it. I mean, there's a lot of virtue signaling people like, oh, the virus, and but like most people are like, things need to be open again.
Well, I mean,
You
I've
know,
even seen leftists. I mean, because I'm friends. When you're friends with people in high school, and some of the people I knew in high school, they became big time leftists on Facebook. But I'm seeing some of them post things like, this is just killing small businesses. This isn't, they're starting to sound like, more right wingers and stuff, because it's like, this isn't going to cut it. So they're starting to get even them who we're all for it and usually for big government and everything. They're starting to get sick of it too.
I've seen some Bernie bros, because Bernie dropped out
Oh
today.
yeah.
I've seen some of them talking about, oh, this was just pushed to shut down the primary. To muscle Bernie into quitting because people shouldn't be voting because of the virus and all that. I'm like, well, I mean, that might be part of it. I mean, that's not necessarily why it was pushed, but I'm sure they used it as an. Because I heard a lot of establishment Democrats saying it was irresponsible for Bernie to stay in because he's just encouraging people to go out and vote. I'm like, I know what you're doing there.
Yeah, see, I don't understand why even Bernie would bother even more anymore after this. I mean, number one, in 4 years, he's going to be too old.
Oh no, he's
Um,
not going to run in 2025. I don't think he's going to run in 2024. I don't
yeah.
know. I can't imagine. I mean, but then again, I can't imagine that the front runner is a guy that's clearly in the early stages of Alzheimer's. So
Yeah.
I don't know, never underestimate the Democrats' ability to surprise me.
No, of course, I was wondering if Biden was going to pick Hillary Clinton as his running mate. He might still. I think he might pick Elizabeth Warren. I don't know. Try to get some of those folks in there, but
That'll be amusing. I mean,
yeah.
I really don't think Biden can get through a debate without making a fool of himself.
Not unless he's just been like, playing the fool this whole time, trying to lull everybody into a false sense of security. But no, I mean, when I look at him, he's not. If this is reality, if he's being legit, then he's not in possession of all his faculties, in my
And he's
opinion.
very angry. It like he snaps at people a lot, which is an early sign of dementia. I imagine reality unraveling around you from your perspective is very infuriating. But yeah, that's an early sign of dementia, and that's not going to play well on a debate stage where he just listen here, Jack, and just spews a string of profanities at Trump that don't make any sense.
Well, and
Like
it's
that's
it's his own voters too. That's the thing is that he's not getting mad
yeah,
at
I'm gonna
like
punch
Trump
you in the
supporters. It's
face
his
to some
own
union guy.
Democrats.
Like it's not gonna work. That doesn't work. I mean,
So
Trump says goofy, outlandish things all the time, but there's always like this smug, like amusement about him that makes it much more likable. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
yeah,
whatever, loser. Like, but
or are you thinking he's just saying it just to intentionally kind of like mess with them? Like he's like, I'm gonna say this stupid because I know they're gonna throw a fit over it. But
but like
here's, because I've noticed he's done that. He'll say something crazy over here, and they'll all focus on that and throw a big fit. And then while they're focused on that, he's doing something else over here to distract them. That's not always the case, but I've noticed he's done that more than once.
yeah,
Um,
I don't think Biden in the debate stage is gonna go well for him. But hey, at least it'll
no,
be amusing. We need something to amuse us since we're not allowed to leave the house.
I know. Well, it has been pretty kind of amusing to seeing the celebrities kind of losing their minds because they can't get attention. That's pretty funny, and them kind of figuring out just how non-essential they actually are.
Yeah, yeah. I saw like Madonna had a video where she's like in a bathtub, rambling on about stuff, and it's like, oh man, that is past its expiration date. That is for sure.
Well, and Jimmy Fallon and all these other people who, trying to like do their shows from home and everything, and uh, but
That's the other
it,
thing. It's like I don't think. I mean, I know there's a lot of people involved in making a show and in filming and all, but it's like, uh, everything. They just shut down everything, production of everything, suspend it. Like, oh, this show, that show, whatever. Animation's doing okay because that people don't have to get together to make that for the most part. Like I read the Castlevania season 4 is still right on track. Um, but
that's good. It kind of reminds me of World War II, where so many of the actors had to go off to war. That's why Disney started, or was it the opposite? It was one of the either A, they were really into animation and all the animators had to go to the war, or they were really into live action movies and all the actors had to go to the war. I can't remember. It was one or the other, but
a lot of actors were either in war or they got put right in like USO stuff.
so maybe that's what it was, is the actors went to war and then that's when Disney started getting more into animation.
A lot of entertainers ended up going directly into like propaganda wings of the military back then. Like Stan Lee said that they like when they drafted him and all, they were because he hadn't done much at that point, but he had written some comics, and they're like, oh, you're a writer, you're gonna write propaganda posters for us. So one of his early stories is how he had to write a poster about how sailors need to use condoms because they'll get VD otherwise.
Mm.
Like,
Excelsior.
uh,
Oh man.
but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
funny
did you
how
see
this.
that drone that was telling people to maintain social distancing in New York?
No, but good lord,
Yeah, there's a drone flying around saying maintain social distancing, keep 6 feet apart from each other. It's like, what in the world? What kind of dystopian future have we entered into?
you know.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes I'm not necessarily happy about living in the sticks, but every once in a while I'm happy to have the redneck neighbors that I do. Because if that drone flew through my neighborhood, somebody would just shoot it down. They'd just
Exactly.
shoot it down. Just shotguns just blasting away at it.
Well, and see, the best part is that they wouldn't have shot it down because they were mad. They were shooting it down just to see if they could hit it.
They wouldn't even just be guns. Like there'd be guys out there with like slingshots full of BBs and stuff, like those pocket shots and stuff like that. Little kids would be out there with BB guns and stuff, If it's low enough, people be chucking rocks at it. They'd be like, "No, that's coming down."
Exactly.
There's not far from me. There's like a field where people do like races with like really high end RC cars and stuff like that, and guys with the RC planes and stuff like that, and they fly drones around there. It's like a hobbyist kind of area. That's like, I don't know, the redneck nerds are into that, I guess. And
Yeah, my dad used to love making like RC planes and flying those around. He used to really enjoy that.
there's a hobby shop right by it and all. But I'm just picturing like a bunch of RC planes just shooting down a drone with little BB pellets.
Yeah. Hey, give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Oh, sure, sure. Oh, what's going on in the chat here? Somebody says, "Hey, Vaclav, have you been keeping up with the bisexual Sigma male Twitch streams?" I've caught bits and pieces. I know there's the clip channel on YouTube. I am not running the clip channel. I assure you that, folks, because I'm retarded. I don't even know how to make clips. But it's there's some choice clips. It's like Davis Arini Sigma male or something. If you search that on YouTube, you'll find it. I highly suggest subbing to that channel. Zach the Bong Rippers in chat. How's it going? Snitches get rewards. Yes, indeed. Sadly, they do. Somebody says, "Oh, Pastor Tom and his daughter on Twitter. She's adorable and looks younger and he looks younger than he sounds." Yeah, he does. He does. I thought he was older too until when I first started talking to him. Let's see. Courts are shut down. The police are free to do what they want, whether it's constitutional or not. I mean, that's always kind of been the case, but it's not virtue signaling, it's power tripping. Yes, that's true. Seems to be a run on gym equipment, especially weight plates. I was not aware of that, but that makes sense, I guess. Probably a lot of gym rats can't go to the gym now. The first week of this nonsense, I actually I went and got my comics at the comic book store because they were doing like curbside pickup basically. But the second week, I called them. I'm like, "You guys still doing that?" They're like, "No, we didn't get any shipment in." Like, they're just not getting anything in. The comic book industry is in real trouble right now. I mean, they have been for a while because of the idiots running it. But this has caused real problems that could in theory collapse it. I mean, Marvel and DC both respectively have major corporations behind them, but if they don't back it up, if they're not backing them up, I don't know. A lot of these YouTubers that do like the Comicsgate shit and all, they want to do I was young. But they want to do that fear-mongering stuff where, the comic industry is going to collapse any day now. And it's that typical clickbait stuff. So I've never really wanted to hop in on that because I've seen the comic book industry weather a lot of other storms. That said, though, this is a serious crisis for it. It's a serious crisis for a lot of industries. I mean, you're going to see a big contraction in Hollywood, period, right now. And for no other reason than they can't make anything. I mean, everybody's stuck at home and there's plenty of people watching stuff now, but with these kind of restrictions, I mean, you can't film a TV show right now.
Yeah, given what they've been filming recently, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I mean, there's a couple of shows like Orville got its production suspended, which is kind of sad about. Season 3 was supposed to be out this year. I don't know how far along they were. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it was supposed to hit Hulu this year. So.
Oh, that would have been nice. I actually would have wanted to see that. I heard Picard was terrible.
I've heard nothing but bad things about that, and it doesn't look good either.
Apparently, Picard is gay. He's gay for Data.
Oh, jeez. The whole thing's just sad. I refuse to acknowledge a Star Trek show after Voyager. As far as I'm concerned, if you ask me how many Star Trek shows there are 4 or 5 if you count the cartoon. That is will always be my answer till the end of time. Like,
I count the cartoon. I think Enterprise got good by about season 3.
I don't even really dislike Enterprise as so much as something about it where it's like I keep forgetting it exists. Yeah. I don't know why, but it's not like Discovery where I just refuse to acknowledge it. I'll be deep in the cold ground before I give it the time of day. Enterprise, like I've seen a few of them, and I thought it was actually kind of cool how they explained the continuity hiccup with the Klingons. You know why they looked like humans in the original series.
Oh yeah, yeah, that
Like
was interesting.
that's something they've acknowledged before, but never fully explained. Um,
Well, yeah, it
but
was
yeah,
kind of a
they
joke in the Deep Space Nine episode.
yeah, but they just refuse to explain it, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, this is the actual continuity explanation for that." I like when they do that. I like when they're like, "Yeah, this is why this is this way." Um, so I don't necessarily look at Enterprise like I refuse to acknowledge it. It's just I just kind of forget it exists. I remember years ago there was like a Wizard World Philly I went to where they had all five of the Star Trek captains on, and I'm going through the brochure what they got going. And I'm like, oh, all the Star Trek captains, and I'm like, why is the guy from Quantum Leap there? Oh, that's right. like, like that was just my for a split second. I'm like, what's Scott Bakula doing here?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. The sad thing about entertainment nowadays is like there are things that, could be cool ideas. Like I like how they bring certain things back, but they do just such a horrible job. You almost like you dread it. Like on the one hand, it's like, okay, it'd be cool if they did something with like the Deep Space Nine cast, but it's like, but seeing how they treated Picard and then seeing how they've treated like Star Wars and everything, it's like, no, I never mind. I don't want that. No. And then you're just kind of like, I hope nobody else thinks about that. Like again, to this day, we've been very fortunate that nobody has decided to mess with Back to the Future. That's one of the few franchises out there that no one's decided to make a reboot or a remake or kind of horrible sequel, and that's good. And I hope it stays that way
They
because
did
those movies are good movies. I'm not saying they're the best ever, but they're good movies. They don't need to be touched. It was completed. It was done. It
they
doesn't
did
need to be
a
added anything.
they did a video game back in like the I want to say it was like early Xbox One generation, um, where it had basically the whole cast doing the voice work. It had like the original writers of the movies, like Robert Zemeckis was heavily involved in that kind of thing, and it's sort of by hardcore fans considered Back to the Future 4, and similar to the Ghostbusters video game, same kind of situation. Um, and it's very very loved by the fans. That said, though, yeah, other than that, they haven't touched it. And Robert Zemeckis has said while he has the rights, they're not, he'll be deep in the cold ground before they reboot it.
Good. Well, I don't see how they could. I mean, because it was very much a movie of its time. And I mean, you really had to have that 1985 look and feel and then the 1955 to really get it. Like, this is not something that I don't think would work in the 2000s or in our current time period of going back. Like, like I said, I think it would be a disaster.
Ghostbusters is another good example of how they can. I mean that reboot was just universally despised, and I mean Ghostbusters that sequel, that like kind of next generation sequel they're doing here. Who knows when it's going to come out now because all this mess, but I mean I'm sort of cautiously optimistic about that, but.
Yeah, I mean, it could be good. And the thing is like these movies, they could be good. There's some of these things that could be good, but the problem is everybody's already talked about it. But they cannot separate the politics from the storytelling. It's like you can't insert modern politics and modern sensibilities into movies that were made when nobody cared about this stuff, because that's what's going to kill and that's what's going to upset your fan your hardcore fan base, because they don't want to see that stuff in this. They want to see the same good storytelling, and the type of politics that they want to put in here aren't going to work in those stories.
I mean, if anything,
it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
if anything, like the politics of Ghostbusters is actually rather right wing. I mean,
Yeah.
every
Well, I mean, again, yeah, it's about people who start their own small business until the government comes in and screws it up.
yeah, every non supernatural antagonist is a government bureaucrat or politician.
So, I mean, exactly, and they're just trying to do a small bit. I mean, it's a neat idea, I mean, like I said, I've always thought that the spiritual successor to Ghostbusters was Men in Black, essentially. Um, and it's there's a lot of cool things that you can do with it. At the same time, you don't necessarily have to.
Oh, I mean, I've talked before. IDW has basically nothing but licensed comics, but they've done amazing things with their Ghostbusters license. The main writer basically gets it as much as Dan Aykroyd or Harold Ramis ever did. Again, my best friend is a huge Back to the Future fan. He swears up and down that the IDW Back to the Future comics are amazing. IDW has even done some really cool Star Trek stuff the last couple of years. They did
Well,
this
yeah, I mean,
trilogy
IDW
of
did some great
stories.
Transformers stuff too.
Oh yeah, they've done a lot of good Transformer stuff. They're actually doing a Transformers My Little Pony crossover here.
That should be interesting.
At some point. Who knows when, if or when now things are coming out. Um, but yeah, they've done a lot. Like, I mean, if you were ever a fan of TNG, instead of watching Picard, check out the Mirror trilogy that IDW put out. They did Broken Mirror, Through the Mirror, and Terra Incognito, and they're all amazing. You can get like the trade paperbacks of those three minis. Like Broken Mirror is like looking at the TNG mirror universe, and then Through the Mirror is like a conflict between the two universes, and Terra Incognito is where Mirror Universe Barclay replaces the regular Barclay because he doesn't like that his counterpart is such a dork.
Mm.
So he wants to be like better at living his life than him, and he kind of is. Like everyone on the ship just likes him better for a while. They're like, I don't know what's different about you, Barclay, but I like you.
That's funny. That reminds me of the books that William Shatner wrote. He wrote a few books, and he kind of messed with the mirror universe a little bit, where he kind of interacted with his mirror universe self and the whole TNG thing. That was he brought himself back to life in his books. Essentially, he had, and it wasn't just him.
I
Worked with
remember the one it took place right after the Generations movie. He was like resurrected by the Borg for some
Yeah,
reason.
they brought him back to life to basically assassinate Picard. And
It was
see,
interesting
what?
stuff. I remember reading
Yeah,
it.
it was pretty good. I mean, now it's definitely like you can tell it's William Shatner, is writing it because like Kirk's always the main character, but he does all right with some of the other characters.
There were some decent Star Trek books back in the day. I remember one called Probe, which was like it took place right after Star Trek 4, and it kind of fleshed out more what that probe was and what its purpose was.
Yeah, there was a really good book. I can't remember the name of it, but it focused a lot on the friendship between Kirk and Gary Mitchell, which Gary Mitchell is Kirk's best friend in the pilot episode, where Gary becomes basically like a psychic god almost, and Kirk has to kill him.
Oh
And so
yeah,
that
that
book was
guy.
really fleshing out their friendship, why they were such good friends, which you kind of hear about in that episode, but you don't really ever see.
Remember how in TOS like there were just so many like godlike creatures, basically Q prototypes, as it were. Um, there IDW did a series called Q Conflict recently, and it takes place towards the tail end of TNG stuff, like right before probably Nemesis. And the Qs are battling with all these other races of godlike beings, and it's basically destroying the universe. So they agree to each like assemble a team. So they get like the next gen crew, and then they go back a couple of years and get like the Voyager crew, at the height of that show, and get the DS9 crew, and then go back 100 years and get the original crew. So it's all
Wow.
four crews like interacting, and they pick them almost like dodgeball teams. Like there's the four captains, and then who each one of them is representing. Like they pick randomly like characters to assemble their team. So the four crews are now kind of jumbled,
Yeah.
and it's basically a lot of fan service, and it's just seeing a bunch of characters interact that normally don't get to, obviously. But it was a fun series.
Yeah, those kind of things are a lot of fun when they're done like that. And sometimes that's fun. It's fun to have stories like that.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of character moments, and it actually explained a continuity error in I think it's the 10th movie. Um, who was get? I think it was Riker and Troy getting married.
Yeah.
At the wedding, you see Wesley in a Starfleet uniform, right?
Well, that's in a deleted scene.
No,
Well,
I saw
yeah,
it in the
it's a
theater.
Passover, and then they kind of mention it in a deleted scene.
I saw it in the theater, and Wesley he went off to go live with that magic space pedophile at the end of
The
season
Traveler.
7, and so he wasn't in Starfleet anymore. Well, this series actually explains that. Like, as a result of this ending, Wesley had to give up his powers, and they basically like reset things, so it was as if he had just stayed in
Starfleet.
Starfleet. So everyone just accepted he was a Starfleet officer and had memories that he was a Starfleet officer, even though he hadn't been. And I was like, that's kind of cool that they just went ahead and explained a continuity error in a movie no one even liked.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, you get guys writing some of these like little tie-in comics, and I mean, it's easy to just dismiss them, but those are usually the true fans that grew up with these things and actually love and care about them.
That's the
Unlike
thing is, if you love
unlike
and
the
care
people
about the
that are
material, you can
truly in
make something
charge of
good.
these things. You know.
Right, like I said, that's what makes the difference is they actually love and care about what they're making, and they got talent, obviously. You've got people in Hollywood who got talent, but they don't actually really love what they're doing. This is just this is a property for them. This is just oh, here's this thing that people know, so we're just going to use it to make money and to push our own politics, to virtue signal.
I mean, I legitimately claim that the people that made the 2016 Ghostbusters did so largely out of spite. Like, I've never seen a reboot where I just felt like everybody involved was like, you know what, screw this thing and screw anyone that likes it. Like,
That's how I felt about the Star Wars sequels.
I mean,
I
yeah,
felt
I
like those
kind
were
of I
made out
could
of
see that
spite.
impression too. Like, I don't like the Star Trek reboot, but I don't like it because I think J.J. Abrams is kind of a hack and didn't know what he was doing. But I never felt like he walked on set each day like, screw Star Trek and screw anyone that likes it.
No, because you can see little nods to Star Trek in the Star Trek reboot, like when he does the classic lighting, where you've got the light on the eyes and then the other people are in the shadows. Like there's that little nod. There are some other little nods in there that kind of show that he at least kind of appreciates what Star
Yeah,
Trek
I
is.
just
But yeah, I
don't
mean he's
feel
kind of
like
lowbrow. It's kind of like if James Cameron did Star Trek essentially.
yeah, I just don't feel like he got it. But it wasn't because he didn't like it. It wasn't because it wasn't out of spite. I just feel like he just failed. Like he just didn't know what he was doing. And that's my personal opinion, I should say. Some people like it, but whatever. But like the 2016 Ghostbusters, or yeah, even the Disney Star Wars, it's like this is just spiteful. This is
No,
just
they
taking a
got it
dump
and they
on
hate.
this thing.
Yeah, just I mean. I don't know. Well, the same thing with I think even from what I've heard, I hadn't seen it, but I think with Picard, I mean, just in terms of what I've heard, there just seems to be a hatred for that.
That's the impression I get based on like what I'm reading about it. I'm like, ooh, this sounds bad. I still contend if you want a modern Star Trek show, watch Orville.
And that's what the truth is. I mean, I'm okay with having more original stuff. I think that's really more of what we need. Is we just, I mean, there are some things that they can kind of survive from. There's some ideas that can kind of work from generation to generation. Like TMNT, that's one of those things that it can just kind of keep going because it can kind of reinvent itself. And essentially, because there's elements that can be constant, but then there's a lot of variables too. Transformers is sort of the same way, but then there's some things that it's like, okay, it's just time for this to kind of stop. It had its day. It's great and it's good, but let's do something else. Let's see. And I think Star Trek is one of those things. I definitely think Star Wars is one of those things. I mean, it's like Lord of the Rings. I don't really have a lot of high hopes for the Lord of the Rings TV show. Lord of the Rings was great. It was a great. They're good books. They were great movies. But then it was done when they got through making the movies. That was it. That was the end of the story. And you just need to let it be the end of the story and do something else.
No, you should then make a 9-hour Hobbit movie.
Now, see, that was stupid too, and people didn't like it. And again, that's a stain on the Lord of the Rings movies.
My buddy is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and he defended that for so long. And I'm just like, dude, I can't with this movie. It just goes on, and there's just nothing to it. And he's like, yeah, but like there's that scene where they're fighting in like barrels in the river and stuff. And he goes, yeah, but that was really cool. And I'm like, yeah, but it also felt like really pointless. And it felt like I could go to the bathroom and then get some popcorn and check my email on my phone and come back and it's still going on. Like, at a certain point, it's like, The Hobbit doesn't need to be 9 hours. I can read the book in less time than that.
Yeah, well, you don't. I mean, there are some cool scenes in that, sure, but like you said, it just, a movie having some cool scenes doesn't make it a good movie. Just like a movie having a bad scene doesn't make it a bad movie. There can be a stupid scene in a movie and it doesn't have to ruin the whole movie. Well, likewise, there can be a cool scene in a movie and it doesn't make the movie.
Somebody in the chat laughing at the magic space pedophile thing. I'm sorry, you can't tell me that's not what the Traveler was. Like, I know in canon that's not what it was, but you can't tell me you don't get that vibe off him. Rewatch that first episode with the Traveler and tell me you don't get that vibe. Like, yes, Wesley, please step into my magical van. don't get me wrong, all of season 1 TNG has bad vibes about it, but
Yeah, I mean that show, I don't understand how they got to 3 seasons. I mean, I guess there are a couple of good episodes in season 1 and 2. By and large, season 1 and 2 of TNG is just unwatchable.
I like
It's
the
bad.
pilot. As far as pilots go, I think it's okay. I like Conspiracy, which oddly enough is the episode that Gene Roddenberry hated of season 1,
Yeah,
and I like I can't remember if it's early season 1 or early season 2 or late season 1, but I like the one where Tasha Yar died
that's
with
the season 1.
the tar monster
Yeah,
with
Skin
mind
of
bullets.
Evil.
And that
Yeah,
one
there's
I
a
just like because it's just so goofy and it almost has a TOS feel to it. Like just this ridiculous monster on this barren planet with perfectly breathable atmosphere. just it's just so season 1. This barren planet that does not at all look like the backlot behind Paramount Studios, and a ridiculous monster. Who, by the way, the actor almost drowned in that costume.
I can imagine.
That costume was basically like like basically they soaked a sheet in like corn syrup and printer ink and just threw it over this poor guy. And,
Yeah, it looks really cool though. I'm not gonna lie though, it looks very menacing.
oh yeah,
But
he's very. Yeah, I like the fact that they never and maybe they did in books or something, but I never caught any of them. But they never expanded on what he was. I
nope.
like the mystery about the tar monster with the mind bullets. I just love that.
Yeah, there's a good episode in season 2 where they fly into this, like, they think it's a nebula or it's like it's a hole in space, and then like there's this creature called Magilla which starts messing with them, and Worf like freaks out half the time.
Oh yeah.
Um, that's a pretty good one.
Zach the
But then
Bong
there's just some
Ripper.
other bad ones.
Zach the Bong Ripper says, "What is absurd is Hollywood has plenty of bad movies from the 80s and 90s that were good conceptually, just poorly executed. They could make great remakes of 80s TV shows, just will not do it. Those are the best remakes that take movies and make better ones out of them. I mean, look at The Fly or The Thing. You know, the remakes are so successful, people often forget they are remakes.
Oh yeah, no, if you were to ask what's the original thing, they'd say it's the one with Kurt Russell.
Yeah, most people don't realize that took a really terrible 50s sci-fi movie with a great premise and made a great movie out of it. Same with The Fly.
I wish they'd do that with some of these animated shows, like some of these animated action shows that came out that were pretty good. They had a good premise, but there was just so many other good shows on that they just, they sort of got lost. Like there's a really good one called Pirates of Dark Water. Remake something like that, or Silverhawks, remake those. You know, take some of those older shows that again were good and had promise, but redo them nowadays to where again what's old is new again.
Well, again, nowadays, I mean, look what they did to Thundercats just recently.
Oh yeah, jeez, that dadgum cow art style. I hate that style of animation.
I saw when I first saw that, I'm like, okay, is this like a little parody sketch that appears in the last 2 minutes of a real Thundercats show? Because then I might like it. It's like if there was a real Thundercats show, and then in the last 2 minutes, as the credits go, they do a little goofy sketch with these cartoony guys. I'd be like, that'd be really funny. But like, no, that's just the show. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's terrible.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I mean, it's not that it's necessarily simplistic, because like Samurai Jack is simplistic and Dexter's Lab is simplistic. It's just ugly.
It
It's just an
really is.
ugly animation style.
And it's so insanely overused. That's the other thing. You know, if one or two shows had that art style, it'd be one thing. But when they all do, then you really grow to hate it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's just like I said. I mean, I don't really like it to begin with, but you're right. It was very much overused. Just uh, I just there's no telling what my daughter's gonna like when she gets older. Who knows?
Oh, I don't think I think I'd just stick to DVDs if I were you of shows that you
I'm
know
doing
are
my
okay.
best. I mean, now one thing is we were able to get a year of Disney Plus with our new phone plan, so we're trying that out for free. And there's actually they put a lot of the older shows on there. They even got some really old movies on there. Like they've got the Sign of Zorro, um, which could kind of serve as a prequel to the Mask of Zorro. Um, but that's really good. That's been pretty fun watching some of those older Disney movies. They got DuckTales on there. Um, and they got all the, of course, with the Marvel stuff, they got all of the old Marvel cartoons on there too.
Yeah,
Um,
I know they have the X-Men one. Do they have the '90s Spider-Man?
they do. They also have Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Oh wow. I know the '90s Spider-Man had some rights issues where it never got an official release on DVD, like the whole thing.
Yeah, they've also got Spider-Man Unlimited.
That one was rough. I liked the costume, but that one was rough.
Yeah, it was a weird concept.
Very weird. Apparently, when that came out, Sony had just gotten the rights to Spider-Man, so they had to change a whole bunch of things to keep Sony happy as they were working on figuring out what to do for a movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let's see. They've got the Iron Man cartoon, and they've got the Hulk cartoon, and the Fantastic Four.
oh, the '90s Hulk cartoon was pretty good. That was actually on UPN back in the day,
Yeah, I really like the intro to it.
and there was a
It's a good
lot of
intro.
guest stars. Like I remember Ghost Rider guest starred in it. I think there was a Fantastic Four episode.
Yeah, I think there was. Well, yeah, like the MCU kind of existed in animation form, and it kind of went along the same format where it kind of started with Iron Man, and then eventually Spider-Man became the face of it. Um,
If it's on there, check out Spectacular Spider-Man. The art style is a little wonky. It's a little stylistic, and you might even say ugly. But I actually find that the stylistic art, they had better animated fight scenes, I guess as it were. They had better sense of movement. Some of the '90s cartoons were a little stiff in their movement because the characters were just so detailed
yeah.
compared to a lot of animation. But yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man's pretty decent.
I think that's on there. They got a bunch of different Spider-Mans. They got like I think an Ultimate Spider-Man.
That one's okay. There's now Marvel Spider-Man, which is supposed to be more like the movies, but I haven't really seen those. That's the most current one they have.
Yeah, I think they got the Avenger. Not well. I mean, they got the live-action Avengers movies, but then they've also got like animated Avengers.
If they have it on there, watch Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Okay.
Now they canceled that for I think Avengers Assemble, which was Disney's produced one that was more in line with the movies. But Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes is damn near on par with like Justice League Unlimited.
Oh,
It's probably Marvel's best animated cartoon.
I like Justice League Unlimited, except for I didn't like how they treated Superman. They didn't know what to really. The problem with the Justice League Unlimited is they were too big of Batman fans, and so they just like as Superman always got the shaft in that
They
show.
actually now they featured Batman a lot in Unlimited, but they early on there was a lot of restrictions of how much Batman they could use. That's why he was never even towards the end he was never an official full time member. He was always technically reserved. But also like they got to use the Joker a couple of times, but they never got to use other Batman villains, despite the fact that they were more well known. You'd think when there's a team of villains, you'd see Poison Ivy in the group or something, but no, they were really strict on who, and they even wanted to use a Batgirl and Nightwing in Unlimited when they had like 40 members of the Justice League. And
Yeah.
again, there was some sort of restriction from network saying no, 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 only a little bit of Batman.
I mean, I could see that. Thing is like Batman in that show, he's a bit of a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu, honestly. Like, I mean, he's like, there's one point in the like, it's like near the last episode where like he does a lunge kick into Darkseid and he like knocks Darkseid off his, off balance, and it's like, come on, Darkseid's taking hits from Superman. Batman lunging into him would be like lunging into a brick wall. And of course,
Yeah, and it
Batman's the
basically
only
only
person
like
to avoid the Omega Beam. It's like, okay, we get it. It's awesome. He's cool.
it basically like only serves to distract Darkseid briefly in that fight. And I'm like, there's other ways you could have wrote that. Like he could have like shot his grappling hook right into his face or something. Like, yeah, that probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have damaged him, but it probably would have dazed him for a minute. Like, did you just hit me in the nose with a grappling hook? Like,
Right.
um, but again, they just Batman was was the big old alpha male of that group towards the end. Um,
Now I did like Green Lantern, like how they did him. I liked the Green Lantern was a good character. I thought. I mean, other than him, being with Shire all the time or whatever, he that was good. Jean was a good character too.
oh yeah, all in all, that show's really good. The Bruce Timm stuff. I mean, the worst of like Batman Beyond is probably my least favorite of all the Bruce Timm DC cartoons, and even it's okay.
I like Batman Beyond. I think it was a good way of going forward. I think it's actually one of the better sequel shows out there. Because I mean, it became its own thing, and it was sort of a natural progression of Bruce going to become more like Oracle. It's not easy doing a sequel show. I think that was one of the ones that actually did it well. Because it respects Batman, but then it allows Terry to sort of be Batman too.
Did you ever see the Superman and the Legion of Superheroes cartoon from the mid 2000s?
Uh,
It was okay, but it actually was supposed to. Remember the episode of Justice League Unlimited where like Green Lantern, Supergirl, and Green Arrow travel to the future and help the Legion of Superheroes, and Supergirl stays behind?
yeah.
They were actually going to spin off a Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes show, spinning off of that, still set in that universe, in that timeline. And somewhere early on, some executive was like, "That's stupid. Boys aren't going to watch a girls' show. Make it Superman." And so they had to make it its own thing, which is funny because it's now the opposite. Now it's like fill every boys' show with lesbians and paz. But back then there was still that mentality where "Ooh, boys aren't going to watch it. Shut it down."
Yeah, which I mean, the thing is they would, you'd have a better chance if you had like a good male character in there, but they'd still watch it. I mean,
Oh yeah, and it was spinning off of the Justice League show and all, and it would have been fine. It would have done well. Um, you know, I mean, it's the Legion of Superheroes. It's a whole team. There's plenty of other characters you can give the spotlight to.
and now of course again having Jeffrey Combs as the voice of the Question was a stroke of genius too.
Oh, the Question's my favorite character from that show, bar none.
Yeah. But I
Like,
really like the actor
it's so great.
because he's the same guy that plays Wei Yun on Deep Space Nine,
Oh, that's right.
and of course he's the best in probably Terminator
Yeah, that.
because he's kind of the mad scientist in that movie.
But yeah,
You
that
ever
was.
seen that?
Oh, what was the movie again?
The Reanimator.
Oh, yeah, he was Reanimator.
Yep.
Man, I hadn't seen that movie in a while. I should watch it again.
That's a good. I mean, it's got some raunchy scenes in there, but it's a good like kind of funny horror movie.
I remember I got a DVD of that for Christmas the one year, from a buddy of mine, and it came with like a highlighter that looked like a syringe of the green fluid,
Yeah.
and I remember I used to always use that in church. Got a few awkward looks at it too. This
Yeah.
highlighter that looks like a syringe of bright green fluid.
Yeah. They don't make them like that anymore. I don't know. Of course, I can't even remember the last time I went to the movies.
I saw Sonic in theaters. I saw that. And I saw Ford versus Ferrari because my boomer car guy dad wanted to see it, which actually it was really good. I mean,
I
I
heard
went
Ford-
into that expecting to be bored to tears. And I was like, wow, this is actually great.
I heard Ford versus Ferrari was good. I kind of wanted to see that.
But Sonic was good too. And I mean, I'm, I'm, I'm usually not one to acknowledge any Sonic that doesn't have Princess Sally in it, but I did really like that movie.
Yeah, I was impressed that they were willing to change the design. I mean, because the first design was terrible, but then they redesigned them. They saw the feedback. They actually responded to it, and I think it actually ended up doing pretty well.
And not only that, but it seems like they redesigned just the tone of the movie. Like the tone of that first trailer is so like taking itself really seriously, and then later trailers it's like, no, this is a goofy, fun family movie, and that's exactly what it was. So I feel, and they supposedly did do a few reshoots, and they did a little bit of editing to kind of change the tone of the movie, and I'm glad they did.
Well, imagine that, like actually paying attention and showing respect for the people that you want to come and pay money for your movie, as opposed to just, constantly saying that they're sexist and misogynist and just terrible people.
Yeah, that's part of why I saw Sonic. I almost felt like I was almost obligated to reward their good behavior in that regard.
Right. I
Oh,
mean,
you actually didn't spit in my face? Well, let me give you $10.
uh,
I kind of want to see Wonder Woman too. I mean, if and when it comes out.
Yeah, the trailer was really good. Other than her the lassoing the lightning, that was
I don't know
stupid.
what she's doing there. I don't know what that is. I mean,
That, but the rest of it is good. The idea that somehow Steve is brought back by this guy, and then this guy gets something from her, or I don't know. Like I said, it was a good trailer. It makes me want to do it, but yeah, that part's stupid.
Max Lord is a very interesting villain in the comics, and he's actually someone Wonder Woman had to kill at some point. In the comics, Wonder Woman is not like I'll never kill kind of thing. It's just an absolute last resort sort of thing with her. And she switched his head around 180, and the rest of the Justice League wasn't happy about that. But
Well, I'm wondering if she's going to do that in this movie, and that's kind of why she goes underground. Because in Justice League, she was like, "No, I'm not. I don't want to reveal myself. I need to stay hidden." So I'm wondering if that's what they're going to set up,
that
is
might
that
be
she
it.
kills this guy, and then she kind of disappears because she feels like she can't be a hero anymore.
Yeah, in the because he has mind control powers, and I think he had like taken control of Superman or something. And was gonna, go nuts with that. And she was just like, "No, I don't think you are." Switched his head around 180. Like that's
Ooh.
enough out of you.
Although, man, Gal Gadot though, she singing Imagine, that was disappointing.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, like, I never expect anything out of actors. I really don't. Like, I'm so past. Like, back when I had an arrow boner, I never. I would never follow Stephen Amell on Twitter or something. It's like, because I know, you know, it's like, yeah, Oliver Queen's awesome. Casey Jones, who he also played, is awesome. But you're probably not awesome. You're probably a dipshit. So I'm not going to follow you. I don't want to know. I just don't. And yeah, Wonder Woman's great, but Gail Gadot is some spoiled actress, and fashionable people have fashionable opinions. You know.
Yeah, I don't know. Just she seemed like she was a little bit better though. Like she seemed a little bit different, just in terms of like as a real person. But you know,
I mean, Bruce Banner's a genius. Mark Ruffalo's IQ is probably somewhere in the 90s.
oh, Mark Ruffalo, gosh,
I mean, he's
guy.
he's not Bruce Banner. I mean,
No,
Captain
he's not even.
America's awesome. Chris Evans is kind of not.
No, he's not. The best thing he's done since that was that Smart Park commercial.
So, so yeah, I don't worry about a lot of that. I mean, I'm still gonna go see Wonder Woman. Well, am I gonna go see Wonder Woman? I guess not. I don't know. Maybe I'll stream it.
I'm about to say, yeah, that's what they'll have to do or something.
That's the other thing, and I've seen people like celebrating it, like, oh, we're finally getting rid of the movie theater, thankfully. And I'm like, look, I haven't been to the movie theater a lot lately, but I'm not gonna celebrate the age of the shut-in. Like, oh well, yeah, we're just gonna get everything at home. Like, that's not a good thing either.
Nah, people need human interaction. I mean, this has been tough for me on the one hand because I want to try to be there for people, and then on the other hand, it's like, oh, but I can't get close. Um, it's trying to fit, because I've been calling all my members, trying to check up on them, making sure they need things, if they got everything they need and everything like that. And like I said, you're wanting to be there, but then you're having to be careful as well. And of course, like I said, I mean, our church, we're streaming services at this point. So like basically what I've been doing is I've been recording the service. I'll record every aspect of it. So like we brought the choir in, we had them sing the hymns, we recorded it. I'll pre-record the sermon and all of the announcements and prayers. Then I edit it all together into a single video and then stream that out. Um, but that's not the same. I mean, that's a stopgap. But I hate it. I mean, because it's like I actually liked gathering with my church and and worshiping with them. It's just it's even if you're interacting in the chat, it's on Sunday morning, it's not the same as seeing them, talking to them. Just we're social creatures. By and large, we're meant to be.
Yeah, this
Um,
is not a way people can live long term. I
eh,
mean, I know there's a lot of shut-ins that are happy about it, but the majority of people need human interaction. The majority of people, you know, it doesn't matter how nice my house is or how many nice things I have in my house. The moment you tell me I can't leave, I feel trapped. And people don't like feeling trapped. And
Well, you know, I
some
mean, people
people,
want to go
that's
back
going
to
to
a
play
sense of
hell with
normal.
them. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, people, there's a certain sense of, wanting to go back to normal and living in quarantine day after day like this. It's like, well, are we ever going to feel like normal again? And normal changes over time, obviously, but I hate these articles that are trying to condition us into thinking that this is the new normal. It's like, no, this isn't normal. This is never going to be normal. This is not how we were meant. This is so antithetical to how we were meant to live.
Yeah, this is not normal. This is not acceptable long term.
And we're not going to do this every year either. That's the other thing is like, oh, there's going to be a second wave or third wave. That's like, nah, people just, they can't do this.
At a certain
They
point,
can't.
I don't care. At a certain point, I'd rather deal with the reality of, you know, of a pandemic than this.
Well, I mean, of course, I read one article about one guy who was thinking he was one doctor and he actually feels like that we're prolonging it by isolating. He's like, you need to protect the vulnerable, but if you actually go out there and get people further exposed to this, they're going to get inoculated there because most cases are asymptomatic anyway. So you're going to go ahead and inoculate the population, then you're going to build up herd immunity better. So you're actually prolonging and potentially making things worse by separating people. And I mean, this is his opinion. Um, but I mean, again, he was a epidemiologist, so I mean, that's what he was sort of remarking on. It's been amazing to me just though with the models, like we've all been trusting all of these models and everything, but there's just no rhyme. They keep changing constantly, but yet they change, but the policies don't change. Or if they do change and the models change and it's like there's going to be less death, it seems like the policies get more restrictive.
The few
That's what
good
doesn't make sense
things
to me.
I think might come out of this, and even people that are pro globalists have admitted that this is a kick in the balls to globalism. People are beginning to remember. Oh yeah, borders are something that mankind has always had for a reason.
And see,
You know,
that's been one of my big things with borders is because you cannot stop viruses if you don't have if you have open borders
and
because you don't
maybe
know who's coming in, who's going out. It would never work.
maybe buying all our stuff from China, a country that hates us and uses slave labor, and let's be real, this pandemic stuff, they've played this game several times before. It just never got this out of hand before. But there were many other times that they covered up a potential pandemic because China economy's strong, and it just they played Russian roulette and won most of the times. 5 out of 6 people win Russian roulette. But yeah, maybe we shouldn't be buying everything from China. Maybe it would help to have our manufacturing shored up back here.
Well, yeah, and I mean, again, I'm it in some ways it vindicates a lot of what Trump wanted to do. He wanted to shore up the border. He wanted to bring back a lot of manufacturing here in the United States, and get it out of China. Those were two of his big things that he ran on, and in one way kind of vindicates him in that. Now again, could he have done more? Obviously, blah blah blah. But if people had gotten behind that idea, by and large, if other people in power had gotten behind that, this could have been very different.
Yeah, there might be some good that comes of this, but I don't particularly want to see us end up in a depression. I don't want I don't want every small business to die, and like you said, people act like, oh, you're some sort of monster because you're concerned about that, but those are real concerns. If you think economics don't matter, you must have never gone hungry.
Well, it's childish thinking, and it's elite. I mean, again, I hate to sound like a leftist, but I mean, it's elitist thinking. Okay, yeah, it's pretty elite of you to think, because you can go several months without working, but several other people can't. Or maybe you have a type of job where you're able to work at home, but not everybody can do that. So some of these people they need to be working, otherwise they can't feed their family, and you can't depend on the government to just do these things. Even this big stimulus package that they're supposed to do. I mean, some people aren't going to even get their check for 20 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's $1,200. Woo. Maybe, $3,200.
Like I'm super tight this week because, I didn't get paid. It's early enough in the week. I didn't get paid for last week. I didn't work the week before, so I obviously didn't get paid for that. I'm going to get unemployment, but that's going to take who knows how long to kick in. You know, I just now, my state, you got to file on your initial claim, and then they send you a packet of paperwork you have to deal with, which I just now today got in the mail.
Wait, but I thought you were working.
I had that 1 week off.
Oh.
That 1 week we were shut down. And normally you don't even get your first week, but they're going to waive that. But I don't know when I'm going to see that money. So yeah, I'm tight now because I fell behind a paycheck. You know, now all my bills are paid and that kind of stuff. But you know, if I was allowed to go out and have fun tonight, I really couldn't.
Yeah. Well, exactly, and I mean, you know, that's some churches are going to be like that too. Which, of course, you know, the government's coming up with particular loans. Although, you know, our church, I don't think it'll be necessary for our church to do that, thankfully. And man, I would think long and hard before any kind of church taking any kind of money from the government, especially in the form of a loan. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that makes me uncomfortable.
Well, something our economy's needed for a while is some reform on debt. And I mean, at a certain point, debt has to be wiped clean. Otherwise, it just consumes an economy. As far as I'm concerned, something we ought to push for right now is, we supposedly owe all this money to China. Well, not no more. We don't.
That would be an interesting restitution for the current pandemic.
I mean, you know,
the world
you
as all
killed
debts
how
to
many
China
people?
Are canceled.
Yeah, you killed how many people? You caused how much misery? How much, you know, pandemonium? How much despair? You know, how much harm did you cause here with your actions? Okay, yeah, all that money we owe you? No. The whole world doesn't owe you a red cent anymore.
How much are all these human lives worth? Oh, about 30 trillion.
Yeah, how much? Yeah, how much do we owe you? It's worth that much. In fact, you're lucky at this point we don't claim you owe us.
Yeah.
We'll call it even. Which again, I mean, you know, debt has to be wiped clean at a certain point. I think bankruptcy reform is a big thing that needs to be done in this country. I mean, something like making, you know, they talk about the student loan debt crisis, and, you know, they want to talk about forgiveness of it, but I don't like the idea of letting everybody off the hook. Just make them absolvable through bankruptcy. That way, both the lender and the lendee at least get somewhat punished for it. But, you know, you're also not trapped in that the rest of your life.
Well, you know, that's why the concept of Jubilee, well, you know, a biblical concept, was a good idea, and I think that ended up being good for economies too, you know, adopting something like that.
Every country throughout history that's had even the concept of lending with interest has said, okay, there's got to be some ways to rein this in or it will eat us all. All right, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. We've gone on for a while. Thanks for hopping on here, Pastor Tom. Good talking to you as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Glad to be on.
Hopefully you're going to be doing some more online content since you're trapped in a house.
Yeah, I plan to. You know, I just need to get more disciplined with it. But
Right.
you know, I want to. I want to try to do at least maybe one live stream a week again. Get back to doing that. So.
Well, I need to get more disciplined with the Land Shark channel too. So I'm with you on that.
Oh, I'll tell you one other thing though that's kind of really annoying here is these dadgum people who are like, you know, because, you know, people are like, you know, we'll learn a new skill right now, you know, make the most of your time. And people are like, this is a really hard time, guys. Okay, it's just enough to survive. Anyone telling you that you need to get a new skill or anything like that, they're just meanie pants or something like. And it's like, come on, all right, just because, you know, people want to actually make the most of their time by learning a new skill, which by the way will keep you more interested, doesn't mean that they're just, you know, not everything has to be, you know, sitting at home is not traumatic. And that's what a lot of people are doing. Okay. Yes, there are some people who are struggling because their loved ones are dying. Yes, there are people who are struggling because they can't work. But there's a lot of people who are also just sitting at home twiddling their thumbs. Those people can make the most of their time.
Yeah. And that's good for you. You know, there's only so much watching TV or reading or playing video games you can do. Like those, I love doing all those things, but after a while, you know, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yep.
And there's also something about being trapped. I mean, when I had that week off, I wouldn't say I was bored. That wasn't the right term. I was stir crazy. I wanted to leave the house. I wanted to not be in the house anymore. It wasn't a question of being entertained. You know, I live in an age when there's no shortage of things that can entertain me. but that's not what I wanted. I wanted to get out of my house. I wanted to not feel trapped.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of entertained, have you played Doom Eternal?
I have not. I don't actually even have Doom Eternal yet. I been meaning to get it, but I don't know.
It's good. Oh, it's good.
I might swing by Target here one of these weeks and get it. I don't want to just download it. I don't like getting just downloadable content. I'd like to get a physical copy. I'd prefer to just buy it off of my local retro game store because I know they do new games, but I don't know. I also don't want to buy it and wait 4 days for it to come in the mail.
No, I understand. I mean, but if you like Doom 2016, Doom Eternal takes everything from that. It changes some things, and I don't like every change necessarily, but by and large, it really does improve on everything that made Doom 2016 really good for the most part. It's a really fun game. There's a lot of fun Easter eggs. The combat is a lot of fun. It's different. It's not quite the same as 2016, but it's either better or it's just different in a lot of ways. There's only maybe one or two ways that I would say that it's worse, but I really enjoy it. The music is a lot better though. The music is much better in this game. The enemy design too, and the enemy variety is a lot better in this game too.
I've never liked the music in like classic Doom, but I mean I don't particularly like heavy metal. So
well, see, this one it's somewhat heavy metal, but then like in 2016 it was like heavy metal and operatic. You had a lot of like that kind of stuff. This one it's a little bit more heavy metal and techno.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people complain about that. Like I heard Razorfist complain it's no metal anymore, and I'm like, cool. So I don't have to turn the music off. That's great.
But like I said, I like it. I think it blends well for what they're trying to do. So.
Like I had the version of Doom I had growing up was a 32X version. And that was a pretty good version as far as console ports go, but the one thing everybody complains about it is the music is bad. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't like the music in Doom anyways.
Yeah, I don't really, I've played a little bit of Doom 64, but it's okay. It's not really doing it for me right now.
I like the music in Doom 64. Very atmospheric.
No, that's true. The music is good. Just overall as a game, I don't know. It's just okay. It's just I don't know.
It's very much a Doom mod. Like it's not the original Doom at all. In fact, it was originally like it got re-released on the PC as Doom Absolution, which was its original name. But it's basically like a sort of sequel, spin-off. I don't know what you want to call it. But yeah, I used to turn the music off when I played it as a kid and just turn on the radio. I think there was actually an option on the 32X, if I'm remembering correctly, where you could turn the music off but not the sound effects, which I kind of liked more. I kind of like sometimes just the quiet. It's just me and the monsters,
Yeah.
Little more atmospheric that way. You just hear like the imp gurgling in the background somewhere. You're like, okay, where is that? I gotta go deal with that.
Yeah, the level design in Doom Eternal is pretty good too. There's some levels that are kind of like, nah, but by and large, it's a fun game. It's definitely. I haven't tried the multiplayer yet though. I've just kind of played through the campaign, but I played through it, and I've been getting all the secrets and stuff. The cheats are a lot of fun. The toys that you can get with it, are a lot of fun, and it's fun.
I like the Doom Animal Crossing memes a lot.
Where
the Doom guy is best friends with Isabelle from Animal Crossing.
That's hilarious.
I don't know why, but I guess because it came out on the same day or something, but just the internet just decided that was a thing, like Bowsette or something. Like just canonically Doom and Isabelle, Doom guy and Isabelle just hang out together.
And if only Nintendo would play ball and allow that to be in a Doom game.
Like there's one piece of fan art I saw where she's like sitting on his shoulder as he's like shooting away at people, and she's just going rip and tear until it's done. All right, well, I'll let you go. I'm sure you got a baby you got to attend to, no doubt.
Yep, I'm holding her. She's having fun eating her fist right now.
All right, yeah, babies will do that.
But she's a cutie pie.
Well, thanks as always, everyone, for listening.